She didn't cry, not the way she used to, not the way we've seen her explode into sobs and shrieks in past breakdowns. This time was different. Standing right next to Gino, her eyes didn't well up, they darted. She flinched when he brought up paperwork. Her voice cracked, but not from heartbreak, from calculation. And behind that temporary smile, pure panic, not for love, but for what might be waiting once the cameras stop rolling. Jasmine, once the loudest, most unpredictable energy in the room, suddenly became quiet, careful, and that's when fans started asking, what's really going on here? Welcome back to Sister Wives Daily, I'm Sarah, and today, we're following a trail of uncertain glances, clipped conversations, and a silence louder than any scene TLC aired. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments, did Jasmine seem scared or strategic to you? Everything changed in episode 23. What looked like just another Gino and Jasmine squabble quickly snowballed into an off-screen mystery. Right after Jasmine demanded $10,000 for their wedding, emphasis on demanded, her mood nosedived. There wasn't the usual dramatic tantrum we've come to expect. Instead, there was a sense of calculation, like she was trying to manage a crisis no one on set could talk about. Maybe you've heard the rumors already. Allegedly, Jasmine is facing a 48-hour deportation risk. Fans are in chaos. Social media is practically collapsing under hashtags like #JusticeForJasmine. But time out, there's one major problem. There's no public record, no ICE detainer, no statements from TLC, nothing legally on file. Still, the signs, they're difficult to ignore. What is documented is Jasmine's entrance to the US on a cone visa. That starts a whole chain of legal responsibilities. And here's where things get sticky. That visa has strict timelines. When you don't submit evidence in time, when a request is ignored, when paperwork gets mishandled, it doesn't take an arrest warrant to have officials watching. And Jasmine knows it. You can see it in the way she dodges Gino's gaze anytime he asks about the baby or their future. Her lips purse, she freezes, plays off anxiety with nervous laughter. A woman known for screaming in full volume is suddenly censoring herself in real time. Not for him, but maybe for someone else watching. Someone legal. Her body language isn't just nervous, it's controlled, reduced, defensive. This isn't the fiery Jasmine of last season. This is someone who needs to keep everything looking normal, because something off-camera is spiraling fast, and that brings us to digital silence. Jasmine's social media has always been like a walking diary. Fights, meals, selfies, gone, all of it. The post stopped right after episode 23 aired, no updates about the wedding. No promos for the next episodes, which, by contract, she should be posting. Only one explanation makes sense, she's gone quiet because she's lawyered up. Advisor silence. If this were just a rough patch in the relationship, she'd be venting on Instagram. Instead, it's complete blackout. Even her interaction with US-based brands, radio silence. But Panama account engagement? Up, subtly at first. A follow here, a tag there. It's almost like she's reaching back or setting up backup. Gino isn't helping the mystery. He glides through conversations with that flat affect we've all roasted him for, but this time, it's not clueless. It's evasive. Whenever Jasmine brings up legal stress or documents, he shifts the topic or chuckles awkwardly. She accuses, he shrugs. There's no pushback, no explanations, no clarity, just deflection. And the producers? Usually they love when fights go nuclear. They highlight the screaming, show the texts, let the drama bleed out. But in episode 23, cut again. There's a yelled conversation that cuts mid-sentence. There's an emotional moment that ends without context. There's a scene that needed closure, and it's been edited into a cliffhanger. Ask yourself, why would TLC, a network that profits off public meltdowns, dial anything down? Maybe the answer is simpler than we think. When someone's visa is at risk, when legal details are under federal review, airing footage might cross lines. So instead, TLC backs off. They did this with Lisa, with Paul, with Jeffrey. Maybe Jasmine's now on that list. Except there's one twist we haven't touched yet. What if it's not TLC covering for Jasmine, but Jasmine covering for herself? Fans rewatching the episode frame by frame noticed. She hesitates before speaking, especially when immigration or paperwork is brought up. Her furious outbursts are oddly out of rhythm. She never once demands legal justice, just emotional sympathy. It doesn't feel accidental. It feels tactical, like this isn't a breakdown, it's a cover-up. And the silence swallowing her social media, that's not heartbreak, that's lockdown. Within hours of episode 23 airing, Jasmine's entire digital tone changed. Her Instagram, once flooded with filters and Philippine-style inspo captions, went ghost. No birthday posts, no emotional captions, not even a throwback selfie. Posts that were up got quietly deleted or archived. No promotion for the episode, nothing about the wedding, no appreciation story for fans, just silence, almost like she was waiting for something to unfold and didn't want to give anyone anything new to dissect. And it didn't take long for fans to start dissecting anyway. First, people assumed she was dealing with storyline burnout. Fair guess. Then someone pointed out she wasn't liking any comments or replying to any DMs. Someone else noticed that specific clips and tagged screenshots linked to her US life were getting wiped. When her usual foot stamp responses didn't follow, speculation turned into suspicion. She's not ignoring noise, she's pulling away, inch by inch. Here's where it gets serious. Jasmine arrived in the US on a cone visa. That visa gives you 90 days to marry or leave. Once married, you apply for something called adjustment of status, basically, trying to convert that temporary visit into a green card. Harmless in theory. But this is where reality TV and federal paperwork collide. Immigration law doesn't wait for TV schedules. It runs on strict timelines, checklists, and piles of documents. If Jasmine and Gino didn't file on time, or if stuff went missing, or if evidence of the relationship looked inconsistent, USCIS could issue what's called a request for evidence. Now here's the catch. Most fans see request and assume drama. But it's not an arrest, and it doesn't mean she's being deported in 48 hours. A request for evidence is like immigration whispering, "Hey, your folder's thin. Give us more proof. You've got X amount of time. Or else," and that "or else" feels vague. Scary. It exists in a limbo. And it's enough to make anyone panic, especially when you have cameras in your face and fans watching your every move. If that request wasn't handled fast, or wasn't handled at all, that's when the countdown begins. That's when the social media blackout starts to look less like an emotional spiral and more like legal lockdown behavior. That's also when the rumors start exploding. Because when you're a reality TV star who suddenly disappears, people don't assume bureaucracy, they assume arrest, and they tweet it like it's confirmed. Reddit threads, Twitter theories, voice notes spreading across group chats, all erupting with versions of Jasmine's being deported in 48 hours, all from a misread legal phrase. But behavior doesn't lie. What Jasmine did next wasn't random. She didn't clarify anything. No "I'm fine guys." No vague quote stories. Not even a flirty little denial. Instead, she let the rumor swirl like a smokescreen. And Gino slept through the whole thing. At least that's how he acted. But watch episode 23 again. Really look at him. Gino behaves like a guy who knows something off camera might already be affecting their storyline. He doesn't sound confused. He sounds rehearsed, like he's been told to say as little as possible and not mess it up. Legal issues aren't about emotion, they're about liability. He sticks to surface talk. He dodges phrases like adjustment paperwork, immigration, or even green card. And when Jasmine tries to pick a fight about the wedding, it weirdly isn't even about love anymore. It's about money, timing, delays. Why now? Why here? She's crying, but she's not asking for comfort. She's asking what happens next if this all falls apart. If he won't help, what's left? That's when the paranoia hits fully. Her eyes start scanning the room in confessionals. She seems less explosive, more closed. When producers push her on details, she diverts or tells a half-truth. "I'm pregnant, but I don't feel supported." But the body language tells another story. Her hands tremble in one scene. In another, she touches her stomach while glancing off-screen. Not performative, protective, like she's holding more than a secret, maybe a timeline. And the most chilling part, Gino's reaction isn't denial. He acts like someone who knows he can't fix this and doesn't know how to say it on camera. Every paperwork discussion, he laughs it off, changes the subject, or says, "We'll see." But if there's nothing to hide, why wouldn't he just say, "We filed already, we're good"? Why does he look terrified whenever Jasmine starts veering into future plans? Why is every question about their marriage answered with a shrug or a joke? And why does he keep avoiding every single word tied to legal responsibility? If nothing was wrong, why was Gino suddenly dodging every paper-related conversation? When Jasmine first landed in the United States, she came with fire. Loud, unpredictable bursts of love and rage, dramatic declarations, open jealousy, emotional chaos packed into every scene like a ticking time bomb. Viewers were on edge, but at least we knew what to expect. She'd either hug Gino or hurl something at his head. That was classic Jasmine. Raw, reactive, never afraid to let it all hang out in front of the cameras. So who is this woman we're watching now? The shift wasn't sudden, it crept in like a fog. Episode by episode, her reactions got tighter, shorter, more calculated. She started choosing her words more carefully. The usual screaming matches, replaced with long, stiff silences and a look in her eyes that wasn't anger. It was distant, measured, like she was carrying something she wasn't allowed to say. At first, it read as relationship numbness. We've seen burnout in other couples, but Jasmine's silences came with something colder, controlled panic. And it started right around the same time the paperwork questions slipped into confessionals. Every time residency, the baby, or long-term plans were mentioned, Jasmine's expression flickered. For a second you'd see it, fear maybe, or regret. Her confessional style changed too. Less passion, more mess control. Instead of exploding, she spun halfway thought through stories. I just want to feel supported. I thought the wedding would make things clearer. Vague answers attached to bigger questions she never finishes. It's like she's editing herself in real time, not a partner falling apart, a person hiding something in plain sight. The old Jasmine didn't care what anyone thought. She said what she felt, even when it tanked her likability. But this version of Jasmine, she's not speaking to us anymore, she's speaking to someone else. A lawyer, immigration officer, TLC's execs, she's still performing but for a very different audience. Is this fear? Is this strategy? Or is this survival mode? Because let's be honest, when you're sitting in the middle of a marriage-turned-legal circus, broadcast to millions while the government quietly reviews your visa, you don't rant. You tread lightly, you rehearse. You remove the wrong Instagram posts, you delete your US tagged locations, you stop being rebellious, you become careful. This strategic Jasmine is unforgettable for how quiet she's become. She's not growing as a person, she's shrinking as a public figure. And that shift? It's one of the clearest signs that something off-camera is shaping her choices. And right in sync with this transformation is Gino, moving through the season with the energy of a man who's tiptoeing through a minefield. But instead of dodging fights, he's dodging accountability. Watch him closely. His neutrality isn't calm, it's fear dressed up as cluelessness. Every time Jasmine cracks open a serious topic, his eyes go flat, his voice drops. The body becomes stiff, like he's bracing for something unscripted. More than once he uses stalling phrases. We'll figure it out. Let's wait and see. One thing at a time. That's not a man protecting love. That's a man avoiding legal consequences. Let's pull up history. TLC has seen this before. Remember Paul Stihel? The paperwork issues that turned into on-screen meltdowns. Lisa Ham and those sudden edits when legal trouble hit behind the scenes. Jeffrey Paschal's whole arc was so scrubbed clean after charges surfaced, you'd swear half of it never aired. TLC doesn't announce these things. They just shift tone, edit scenes, pull episodes, and suddenly, your rumor becomes a whisper TLC refuses to deny. Jasmine's changes mirror these patterns almost too well. Behaviors that once made her a villain, too loud, too emotional, are suddenly subdued, edited, trimmed into safe, intentionally vague moments. You don't cut down a main character in the middle of a season unless something has shifted behind the scenes. And fans felt it before they even named it. Comments started flooding in. She's off this episode. Where's the fire? Why is this being cut short? The audience noticed the gaps, even if they couldn't yet explain them. And now, it's hard not to wonder, was this emotional rewiring just tiredness? Or was Jasmine trying to stay within invisible boundaries we didn't even know existed yet? What if she'd already been warned? What if, before the internet caught up, she knew? And the Jasmine we're now watching, quiet, careful, hiding behind soft smiles and rehearsed sighs, is the version she became once it was no longer about love, but survival. Did Jasmine already know what was coming, before the rest of us realized anything? The last normal post on Jasmine's Instagram was a filtered selfie with a typical romantic caption. Nothing unusual, just her usual mix of love declarations, beauty filters, and a subtle promo of her latest appearance on the show. That post went up 2 days before episode 23 aired. After that, silence. Not a single new piece of content, not even a story. And then, things began to vanish. Within 72 hours, fans noticed something off. Posts that referred to her life in the US were disappearing. Even old pictures where she tagged her location in Michigan, gone or archived. Videos featuring Gino in their house, quietly scrubbed with no explanation. And it wasn't haphazard, this was methodical. She wasn't emotional unfollowing people or rage posting. She was scrubbing, tactfully, like someone closing digital doors without making a sound. By day 4, engagement took another hit. No replies, no new likes on fan tags. If you commented, you weren't getting anything back, which for Jasmine, who used to reply with emojis and comments to strangers, was wildly out of character. Promotional behavior went completely stale. Nothing about tune in the Sunday or new episode chaos coming. Even though her TLC contract likely required some level of constant audience engagement, especially during airtime. And that's where things get risky. TLC doesn't just encourage cast members to promote episodes, it expects it. This is part of the understanding when you become a face of the franchise. People like Kalani or Angela post aggressively throughout the season. Entire clips get reposted. Weekly stories build audience feedback and fuel algorithm traction. When Jasmine goes silent during the peak of her legal storyline, that's not a brand decision, it's often a legal one. Or at least one done under advisement. That's what immediately separated this digital disappearance from typical reality TV drama. This wasn't Jasmine skipping social media out of spite or exhaustion. This was her stepping back mechanically with intention, like someone who'd been told, take a beat, things are being looked at. And by week 2, the pattern was undeniable. Almost all posts that included her US residency were either gated with settings, archived, or vanished entirely. Even regular hashtags she used before, number couple goals, number Americandream, number Detroit life, were missing in every recent post. But one thing wasn't missing, Panama. That was one of the biggest tells. Jasmine started engaging again, but not where fans expected. She liked 2 posts from Panama-based makeup artists she hadn't interacted with in months. She refollowed a wellness coach who lists Panama as her location. And she commented a single heart on a story from an account tied to her old hometown. It was too subtle for everyone to catch, but eagle-eyed fans did, and they started asking, is she reconnecting? Or planning something? The messaging wasn't direct, but in context, it looked like groundwork, testing the waters, reaching out softly, because people preparing for a personal move don't always announce it, they prep quietly. And what Jasmine was doing didn't look like nostalgia. It felt like logistics. This left fans with 2 major theories. One, she was laying the foundation for a soft return. Not forced deportation, more like preemptive unraveling. Distance on her terms, giving publicity a wide berth while she got her affairs in order. This is the quiet escape plan theory. The other theory? She was told something off-screen, by lawyers, by producers, by a legal advisor, and what we were watching was a holding pattern. Not a decision, but a freeze. A blueprint for what to do next if things suddenly shifted. Either way, every action she took online only pointed to what she couldn't say out loud. The strangest part was that TLC said absolutely nothing. No official posts explaining her absence. No substitute promo. Producers didn't even reuse older footage of her alone for post-episode TikToks like they have for other cast members. When the network goes this quiet on a lead character in the middle of her arc, that's not random. Because what does TLC really do when one of their leads becomes a legal gray area? It started the way most reality TV rumors do. One Reddit post, buried on a thread, claiming Jasmine had 48 hours to pack her bags. No source, no screenshot, just a hot take phrased like a headline. But within a day, it was everywhere. Cross-posted on Twitter, stitched into TikToks, dropped into Facebook group chats filled with aunties who treat reality TV like it's their court docket. Nobody asked for proof. The urgency was enough. And that's the risk when you mix legal terms with public drama. To the average viewer, legal trouble means handcuffs, escalation, airport deportations. But immigration law, it works quietly, deliberately, and very, very procedurally. The phrase 48-hour deportation sounds cinematic, but what most fans don't know is it's based on a misunderstanding of a real concept. The notice of intent to deny or a voluntary departure notice. These aren't last-minute arrest warrants or surprise evictions. They're letters, formal documents sent by United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, usually offering a chance to respond or fix a problem with your case. The countdown begins not when ICE shows up, it begins when the letter lands. And the clock doesn't mean flights out in 2 days. It usually gives you a short window to correct your paperwork, supply missing evidence, or confirm future steps. But to fans surfing for drama, that nuance disappears. Words like intent to deny are read as case closed. Departure notice becomes she's being dragged to the airport. So when Jasmine's social media went dark, when she pulled back from promotions, when Gino danced around immigration questions, the rumor clicked with people. She must be running out of time. Why else would she disappear unless something immediate is happening? But that's where interpretation runs faster than reality. A request for evidence could mean a missing photo, or a document that needs translation. It could be a typo in a date, or a small inconsistency between what a cast member said in their application and what they said on camera. That's enough to pause a file for review. Enough to press pause on public engagement while someone higher up takes a closer look. That's why legal experts called out fan theories without fully dismissing them. Yes, there's no public record of arrest. Yes, ICE isn't involved. Yes, there's no deportation order exposed in any database. But the timeline TLC's airing and Jasmine's behavior still point to something happening. Something that could be stuck in that tricky space between official review and public action. And that's where things get murky, because TLC's cast aren't just people, they're legal profiles with layers. They're also brand assets. The minute something drifts outside the clear-cut PR lane, the playbook changes. The footage goes vague, the producers give less. Suddenly, key episodes carry less explosive content because nobody wants to air something that could legally backfire the following week. Meanwhile, fans fill in the blanks with their own receipts. They line up screenshots of deleted posts and point to TikToks showing Jasmine leaving a courthouse, though without context, it could be anything from traffic court to someone else's case. They analyzed Gino's interviews, digging for slip-ups. He said Jasmine was staying hoped for some stability. Who says that if everything's fine? Did you notice how nervous he looked on the tell-all? Why did nobody ask about the adjustment of status? And what spooked people most wasn't a document or a sighting. It was silence. Silence from Jasmine. Silence from TLC. Silence from other cast members who were once quick to defend her or promote the show when it benefited them. Nobody wanted to talk. And when nobody provides an answer, every fan feels responsible for finding one. But here's the twist: if this was just a rumor, if everything really was fine, why are they all still quiet? Why is Jasmine still off-grid weeks later? Why hasn't TLC issued even a soft denial through partner podcasts or fluff interviews? Why does everything still feel like a question? If the panic wasn't justified, why is there still a legal silence? TLC has never claimed to be transparent. They claim to be entertaining. And when it comes to legal drama, especially the kind that creeps in behind the scenes, suddenly that entertainment starts looking selective. If you've been watching these shows long enough, the pattern isn't just familiar, it's mechanical. Look back at Paul Steele's arc. Before headlines surfaced about his issues with Karine, the footage got quieter, slower, he yelled less. Scenes got shorter. Then came that bizarre moment where he sprints into the woods for no apparent reason. It felt random, until we all found out later that his personal life was rapidly imploding. TLC didn't touch the legal side, they didn't mention it, but they definitely edited around it. Then there's Jeffrey Paschal. His footage aired amid widespread fan protests over his known charges, but TLC never acknowledged it. Instead, when it reached a tipping point, his entire presence was wiped. No reunion appearances, no updates, episodes kept airing but broken up. Scenes felt clipped, like they'd been retrofitted to survive without context. He became the ghost of the season, tiptoed around but never directly addressed. Lisa Ham's story followed the same format. One season she was the fiery, chaos-bringing girlfriend in Nigeria. The next, allegations started surfacing. Sudden post-season silence, no tell-all appearance. Cast members stopped tagging her. TLC moved on like she never existed. And viewers, left to Google what they weren't told on camera. The tactic isn't complicated. Avoid confirmation, remove confrontation, and let the footage speak, but only the parts that make it past legal. And now, Jasmine seems to be walking straight into that same shadow space. Episode 23 is a blinking neon sign if you're paying attention. There's a fight that cuts off mid-sentence. Gino opens his mouth to explain something about paperwork cut. Jasmine talks about the baby cut. We never see how those conversations resolve. You're left with tight 5-second stares and music swells like something big happened, except the scene ends, and we never get clarity. These aren't editing mistakes. These are edits with intention. Time and time again in the episode, we hear Jasmine refer to something without naming it. "I'm not ready for what's coming," she says during a confessional. Then the shot changes. She tells Gino she's scared, but we don't see why. You can feel scenes missing. Whole arguments that probably went places TLC wasn't legally comfy airing. Even TLC's social media promo that week was mismatched. The episode's biggest cliffhanger never made it into teasers. They pushed a side story. Fans were confused. Why promo something minor when Jasmine's episode carried so much chaos? Because when the pressure spikes in real life, TLC hits mute. They won't confirm a legal investigation. They won't publish a statement. They won't warn you that half a storyline just went behind a legal wall. They'll edit Jasmine into a tame version of herself, half present and emotionally muted, and hope the viewers move on before questions pile too high. But fans didn't move on. They zoomed in. And what they've noticed in this episode goes beyond edits, it's emotional trimming. The Jasmine who screams her truth was suddenly careful. The Gino who shrugs away all conflict looked like he was trying not to say something that could cause a problem. Emotional stakes were clearly rising, but actual plot points? Disappearing. And if you look close enough, you start to wonder, what were those cameras told not to catch? What were producers gently nudged to delete, rearrange, or break apart? Why were conversations so dramatically shortened? while tension rose off the charts? What if Jasmine's legal ticking clock had already started while we were all watching? When we talk about Jasmine's immigration status, it's easy to put all the pressure on her. But legally, Gino is just as involved. With a Cone Fiancé visa, once the couple marries, the U.S. citizen spouse has very real responsibilities. This isn't just a love story. It's a federally monitored process with paperwork that has to be precise, honest, and updated continuously. Gino didn't just marry Jasmine. He signed on to sponsor her, to vouch for her legally and financially in the eyes of the government. And that's not symbolic. It comes with literal signatures and a binding affidavit of support. In plain English, Gino agreed to be her safety net. That if Jasmine ever needed public assistance, he'd cover it. That he'd notify government agencies of any major life changes, including marriage status, address updates, or changes in living situation. That he'd help shepherd her application to permanent residency along the path USCIS expects. So what was Gino doing during all this? Episode after episode, we see him dodge questions. Jasmine asks about filing updates, he shrugs. She brings up deadlines, he jokes. Paperwork comes up and his whole body goes still, like he's trying to disappear. Legally, that's not an option. You cannot ghost your way through a sponsorship. Even if your partner is pregnant, mad, or halfway rolling their suitcase out the door, you're still on the hook for those updates. Remember that moment Jasmine brought up feeling unstable, mentioning the wedding money with this edge of desperation in her voice? She wasn't just talking romance. She was likely talking immigration stability. Because without those official next steps, adjustment paperwork, joint filings, interviews, she's floating between statuses. And a missing form here, a delay there, can trigger a snowball the couple might not even see until it's too late. So the real question is, did Gino handle what he was supposed to behind the scenes, or did he forget? Because on screen, his energy doesn't suggest a man who's actively managing legal timelines. It suggests a man hoping silence keeps the questions from getting too specific. He never takes initiative in the conversations. When Jasmine spirals over uncertainty, he gives her space, not solutions. When she throws ultimatums, he sidesteps them with phrases like, "Let's slow down," or "I'm doing my best," which in this context means absolutely nothing. And sure, maybe he's overwhelmed. But being overwhelmed doesn't remove his legal responsibility. If they moved forward without accurate filing or missed a deadline, it's not just Jasmine who's exposed, Gino is too. His name is on the affidavit. His signature is what secured her entrance into the country. His failure to update, respond, or act appropriately can signal noncompliance from both ends. That's when USCIS starts looking closer. Did the marriage happen in good faith? Is the U.S. citizen cooperating with the process? Are there signs of fraud? Any inconsistencies between public appearances and filings? And by the time viewers start scratching their heads about Gino's attitude, maybe the bureaucracy was already raising one of its 10,000 eyebrows. Here's the trick with reality TV. It can create a smokescreen of nonsense. You watch Gino fumbling through conversations and assume, oh, that's just Gino being awkward. But season after season, we've seen how cast member behavior on screen lines up with bigger issues off camera. Aloofness often masks legal stress. Avoidance hides complication. TLC might shape the narrative, but body language rarely lies. When Jasmine started breaking down and Gino gave her the emotional equivalent of a post-it note, it wasn't just bad relationship optics, it was a sign. A red flag, not that he doesn't care, but that he doesn't want to answer the question she's really asking. Are you keeping me safe here? Because the answer might be no. And if Gino failed to fulfill his side, the updates, the filings, the sponsor obligations, it wouldn't just result in chaos for Jasmine. It could trigger penalties for him too, civil ones, fines, increased scrutiny on future filings, a history of noncompliance that sticks with his name long after the cameras are turned off. They say ignorance isn't a defense in court, and it's not one in immigration either. If Gino didn't take this seriously, the weight of that isn't just symbolic, it carries real-life consequences. If Gino messed up the paperwork, could he have taken everything down with him? There's something hilarious and a little unsettling about how fast the internet collapsed into panic over Jasmine. People weren't just watching the episode, they were diagnosing, theorizing, and scheduling imaginary ICE raids based on how many Instagram likes she missed in a week. Entire Reddit threads read like federal investigations. Exhibit A, her last selfie. Exhibit B, a missing promo clip. It would be funny if it wasn't such a precise reflection of what reality TV has done to us as viewers. Because let's be honest, a lot of fans didn't just stumble into this theory, they wanted it to be true, not because people are cruel, but because reality TV has trained us to crave chaos with a sprinkle of consequence. When a couple doesn't provide closure, the audience supplies it. When we don't get a neat arc, we build one. And if the storyline hints that there's more off camera than TLC will admit, fans rush to fill in the blanks. Loudly, emotionally, and usually with a minor in Google law. That's the trap of parasocial connection. You don't know Jasmine, but week after week, you've watched her fight, cry, flirt, rage, and spiral in front of millions. You've made emotional investments in her wins and losses. You've argued with strangers about whether she deserves forgiveness. So when her behavior shifts, you treat it like someone in your own life just flaked out on your group text. Like you're owed an explanation. And from that place of personal ownership, the wildest theories become gospel. Some fans turned into amateur immigration lawyers overnight. Others decided she's definitely fleeing the country with a fake pregnancy. Extreme takes piled up not because people are dumb, because these characters feel real. And when there's no TLC confirmation denying the chaos, those wild narratives start to feel like justice. But here's where it gets messy. For every over-the-top doomcaster claiming ice is already on Jasmine's lawn, there's someone in the comments rolling their eyes like, she probably just needed a nap. You all are so dramatic. As if everything not proven is automatically fake, as if fan speculation is just hysteria. But that's not fair either, because somewhere between she's on a plane right now and she's totally fine, move on, lies something that deserves more nuance. A real possibility that she is, or was, grappling with something serious that doesn't look dramatic on paper but feels heavy behind the scenes. It's smart to be cautious, but it's also human to be curious. Especially when reality TV's entire format is built on people walking toward destruction in slow motion while the audience watches, popcorn in hand. And TLC knows this. The network isn't innocent. Their silence often fans the flames. They've seen this pattern before. Fans decode behavior, find inconsistencies, and start rumors that, months later, turn out to be mostly true. So while they say nothing, they let conversations spiral. That buzz equals ratings. They're not stopping the storm because sometimes the storm sells, and that's what keeps fans locked in. Some watch hoping Jasmine's fine, some wish she gets what they think she deserves. Others just want the drama to grow into something uneditable, something real enough that TLC can't hide behind vague clips and awkward music drops anymore. But here's what nags at you after the episode ends. What if this isn't overreaction? What if this time the fans weren't crazy? As of this moment, there are no official charges. No publicly visible court documents. No ICE bulletin featuring Jasmine's name. No formal notice of removal. No arrest record. Nothing that legally confirms the internet's most dramatic theories. On paper, everything looks calm. But if that's true, why does this entire situation feel like it's heating up by the minute? Jasmine hasn't made a single verified statement addressing the 48-hour rumor. Nothing direct, nothing reactive. No snarky denial. No teary confirmation. Not even a vague Instagram story with a cryptic quote. And for someone known to air every emotion like it's oxygen, that silence feels unnatural. Not peaceful, staged, blank by design. Her known accounts remain muted aside from a few archived appearances in other people's tags. She still hasn't resumed promoting episodes consistently, which alone would raise eyebrows. TLC usually expects every cast member to fuel hype, especially when they're at the center of a major storyline. No outfit of the day stories, no behind-the-scenes content, just occasional low-engagement glimpses that feel more like placeholders than participation. And TLC. They haven't said Jasmine's name in weeks, not even in their usual recycled tweets or mini-sizzle edits. It's like she's still in the season, but not in the advertising, not in the brand. It's a version of being ghosted, but at scale. Every time something doesn't get posted, every time an episode cuts mid-conflict without resolution, fans look around like they missed something, and maybe they did. Or maybe TLC took it out before it ever aired. That tactic isn't new. When storyline tension wraps around legal realities, TLC gets strangely minimalist. A sudden drop in camera angles, scenes cropped at uncomfortable points, emotional moments flattened by quick cuts. There's no announcement, just gravity pulling the edges inward until the character slowly fades even while still appearing weakly on screen. And Jasmine's currently floating in that exact limbo. She's still technically on the show. Still in confessionals, still sobbing between arguments with Gino, but the emotional arc we're watching no longer feels complete. Scenes skip steps, conversations seem manipulated, there's no clear throughline from week to week. That kind of editing only happens when something off-screen is influencing the production room timeline. It's the kind of passive censorship reserved for situations where TLC can't move forward or is waiting to see what happens next before they double down. And that brings us to the weirdest part of all, the balance they're trying to maintain. You don't exclude a main couple from promotion unless you absolutely have to. TLC's silence might not confirm Jasmine's legal trouble, but in reality TV math, it points to a shadow issue. A pending matter, something internal they know enough not to touch right now, and not enough to explain. That's usually how it goes when a show intersects with a living legal process, because nothing is decided yet. And that's exactly what keeps viewers hooked. There's no resolution, just a slow-motion collapse playing out in silence, no answers from the source, no framing from the network, no reassurance. Just questions and half-scenes and gaps massive enough to drive the internet into full speculation mode. So here's what we can confirm. Jasmine is still in the US, as far as public sightings and online breadcrumbs suggest. There have been no credible leaks of a departure or detention. No one from the cast has addressed the rumor directly, which, by the way, is odd in itself. Usually someone says something, even a "leave my friend alone" post. Instead, the people closest to her, also quiet, and that silence says a lot. It doesn't feel like privacy, it feels like planning. Like something fragile is being carried behind the scenes, and everyone involved knows not to speak out of turn. No dramatic statement released, no exclusive interview granting her side. Nothing that would tie Jasmine down to a version of the story she might not legally be able to tell yet. So for now, we're left with fragments. Clips of a woman whose presence used to dominate every frame, now trimmed into cautious mid-sentences and blank space. A social media account drained of personality, and a network walking a legal tightrope in real time. And it raises one final question that still hasn't been answered. Are we watching reality TV, or a real legal case being shaped in edits? Jasmine's situation isn't just about one woman in crisis, it's a glimpse into something much bigger. This wasn't just a couple coming apart or a delayed wedding storyline. This was a reality series brushing up against real-world systems that don't care about drama, ratings, or sobbing confessionals. At some point, the fairytale TLC promised collided head-on with federal deadlines, legal obligations, and rules that don't bend for tears, followers, or on-screen arcs. When international cast members enter this franchise, they're not just signing relationship contracts, they're stepping into immigration theater. Their love stories are watched, graded, and judged by both audiences and bureaucrats. They're expected to be real enough to pass interviews, dramatic enough to entertain us, and consistent enough that no one behind a desk decides their story doesn't add up. It's a high-wire act performed under permanent surveillance. The cameras don't stop rolling just because someone's paperwork does. Foreign cast members walk in with a whole different kind of pressure. It's not just, will my relationship survive? It's, will I be allowed to stay if it doesn't? Every argument gets weaponized by the audience. Every inconsistency becomes suspicious. And worse, every tear that feels manipulative on screen gets interpreted as fraud by fans who don't know the difference between emotional collapse and a strategic breakdown. The line between reality performance and legal documentation blurs completely. And TLC knows that's what keeps the machine running. The network doesn't just tell love stories, it sells high-risk premises disguised as entertainment. Marry across borders, become an instant blended family, learn each other's lives in 90 days or less. But under every season's glitter, the truth is concrete. Government policy decides where these people live, not producers, not fans, not even love. And yet we, the viewers, sit there glued to the screen, waiting for the moment it all goes sideways. We dissect body language, we judge accents. We call relationships fake, real, doomed, or dangerous, never acknowledging how much pressure we've added just by watching. We expect these couples to fall apart publicly and still deliver plot. And when Jasmine pulls away, we're less concerned about her mental state and more frustrated that she's not giving us the next episode. Are we too addicted to watching people fall apart because it makes our own lives feel calmer by comparison? Are we mistaking entertainment for accountability or judgment for justice? Some fans defend the chaos. They signed up for this. They knew what they were getting into. But did they? Did Jasmine, a woman from Panama, fully understand what happens when your real marriage struggles get edited into a meme, and fans treat your immigration case like side plot tension? Did she realize that being a main character also means being main evidence in your own story, with no guarantee the cut favors you? And what about Gino? Did he grasp that his role wasn't just about buying rings and defending her to producers, but about being the stable legal anchor in a system that doesn't care about excuses? Because once you sign that affidavit, intentions aren't enough. Compliance is the only language that matters. Maybe Jasmine and Gino dropped the ball, maybe they didn't. Maybe something complicated is unfolding behind the scenes that doesn't translate neatly into confessionals. But here's the part TLC will never show you on air: real immigration issues don't get resolved in commercial breaks. They drag out, quietly, painfully, away from viewers where consequences are real and edits can't protect you. And that's why this story is different. It's about more than whether their relationship survives or crashes. It's about what reality TV demands from people with no power. How the show builds stories around emotional risk while forgetting that for some cast members, every tear could also be a visa implication. The final twist. TLC isn't neutral here. The silence, the edits, the scaled-back promos, they're not to protect Jasmine, they're to protect the brand. Damage control dressed up as suspense, and it works. Every storyline they censor becomes 10 times more interesting. Every disappearing post becomes proof of something darker under the surface. Every time they go quiet, the audience goes louder. And that brings us to now. Jasmine is fading from promotion but still center stage. Gino's pretending things are fine. TLC won't admit what's happening. Fans are filling in gaps like they're solving a crime. And somewhere in between is the truth, held tightly by people who'd rather let viewers wonder than speak too soon. So here we are again, watching the gaps more carefully than we watch the show. And if you thought Jasmine's episode was wild, wait till you see what got left out of Angela and Michael's last trip to Lagos.